All right, folks, welcome back to another edition of In Conversation. Really excited about this one. I'm always excited about the ones that I do, but this is kind of part two for me of a discussion about Save the Game. You can see it a bit on the screen. And the two men with me today, Billy Blitzer and Frank Cambria. I'll formally introduce them with some background in a second. They'll actually tell you, too, about some of the background as well. But what this essentially is, it is Save the Game US.com. And it's a grassroots effort designed to align with Major League Baseball to encourage youth participation in baseball and grow the game. And so many people think these days that baseball is not growing the way that it should and the way that it used to with the fundamentals. So how do we get back to those days? Billy, Fred, appreciate the time and welcome to the show.
Well,
Thank you.
go ahead, Fred. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for the invite as far as Save the Game with Billy. And so we can really hash it out as far as what we think can hopefully save this game here. Because to be very honest with you, I see it as a dying sport. Right now, it's the number third sport. It's football, basketball, and then baseball. When I grew up in Billy, we played the streets of Queens and Brooklyn. We used to play stickball all day, speedball, everything. And today, kids are not playing the game anymore. A lot of these fields on Long Island, Brian, are going into soccer fields or lacrosse fields, and it's really a shame. I could say within the last couple of years, nobody has really taken their child out to play and hit fly balls or ground balls to them or batting practice. I never see anybody out there, and it's a real shame. It really is. And the only way we can conquer that is letting the Major League Baseball know where it's at. You know. And there's a lot of reasons for that. As far as viewership is concerned, and little leagues are down roughly 10% each year.
Oh.
I used to do clinics with the kids for about 20 years over in a little town, East Meadow in New York. And each year it just has dwindled, which is a real shame. And they're going to other sports now. So it's a real shame. Billy?
Yeah, I'm sure, Billy, you agree with all that?
Oh, I totally agree with Fred. As a kid, I'd be one of those kids walking around with a glove and a ball in my hand constantly. And you don't see that today. And you go by the schoolyards here or the parks where they were once filled with kids. They're empty. Kids are not participating. And when I go to the ballpark, especially the Brooklyn Cyclones are a mile from my home, so I'll go to a number of games. You don't see kids in the stands anymore. They're just not interested in playing. And as Fred said, Little League participation is down. Used to see kids walking in the streets in their uniforms, going to games on the weekend. Yeah. You don't see that whatsoever. Nothing. And we have to get the kids playing again. And I think once you get the kids playing, they'll start going to the ballparks and viewership will go up. But right now, everything's in the toilet, really.
Give me an idea, and Billy, I'll begin with you then, Fred. You can piggyback on what he says. I just talked briefly about SaveTheGameUS.com off the top. So it's trying to get back to the grassroots. So Billy, just take us into a little bit more of Save the Game.
I think what you have to do, first of all, is start from the ground up. You have to get the young kids interested in the game again. Because as they grow older, they're going to take their brothers or sisters or whatever, and you go to the ballpark and they'll get interested in coming to the park and playing the game. And part of it is in Kevin Gallagher's book, Teach the Kids to Hit. I think the greatest feeling in the world for me, how I got started, I was 8 years old when my dad enrolled me in Little League. And the greatest feeling in the world was the first time I ever made contact with the bat to the ball. I said, wow, I can do this.
It's a nice sound, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is great. And you'd go out and you'd practice and you'd want to do more. And then you'd see your older brother or your cousins or whatever, and you want to participate. But today, if you're not playing, these kids are on their phones or whatever it might be. They're watching basketball or football. There's no excitement in our game today. And you have to do something to generate the game, get it back to the grassroots, get it back to, let's say, swinging the bat and base hits rather than home runs and contact and stealing bases, things like that. Make it exciting for people to watch the game. It's a very dull game, even for myself, who's seen thousands of games through the years. Right. All I'm watching pretty much is pitchers having a catch with the catcher because there's so many strikeouts.
Bill, you brought up a good point as far as put the bat on the ball. I mean, the way um, they teach today, it's very difficult. If you go to a lesson and get a hitting lesson, which I haven't in 60 years, but go in there, you got to do this. You got to drop your arm. You got to look at this. You got to move your foot. I mean, before they know that the ball is by them, you know, there was all these the old philosophy: see the ball and hit it. And I be like Billy said, we have to start from the grassroots, make it simple for these young men and ladies that want to play. And I think that's part of the reason. The other problem I see is parents pushing their sons into baseball. You know, they're see the dollar signs with Derek Jeter and Church making X amount of dollars, and they're saying, "Well, boy, I love my son to do that." And that's a shame. When parents tell them to do something, what do? They rebel and they go to another sport, or they criticize them. You know, like Billy. I go to a lot of games, and I see these parents. If the guy makes an error, he yells at the kid, and
it's awful.
Yeah,
it's just awful.
Yeah.
And he's embarrassed. Like Billy. I mean, if I struck out 3 times, I know what I did wrong. And you really do, because you love the game, you study it, and your roommates, your teammates will tell you, well, you should have done this or whatever, and you accept it as a compliment, as a credit to him watching you hit and things like that. But today it's got so sophisticated that it's. I feel sorry for the young kids. Yeah, I'll give you a quick story before I go.
Yeah,
the
please.
Coming out of CVS drugstore, and there was 10 kids there in a bicycle with the iPhones and all that stuff. And I said to the kids, "Hey, by the way, you guys playing baseball?" "Oh, I don't like baseball." Every one of them I went to, I looked at them and I pointed at them: football, soccer, lacrosse, baseball. No baseball. I don't like baseball anymore. When I walked away from that thing, I was just astonished that these 10 kids, nobody was interested in baseball at all.
Let me share a story with you both. Why this is so intriguing for me is that I love the game of baseball. I always have. And when I was young, we used to have this home in the country that we would go to, and I would spend hours outside, no joke, with this old wooden bat, and I would hit rocks. And I would hit rocks constantly, and I would throw the tennis ball against the wall and come back. And then I'd have friends over, and we had a square piece of grass that we would go out and we would just hit ground balls and we would throw home, like kind of the basics and the fundamentals of baseball. So I see where it was and I see where it is now. And I'm sorry, Fred, that you saw those, those kids and where they're at right now. So Billy, if I'm going to ask you, was there a specific time that this took a turn in this direction, or has this been an evolvement over time to get us where we're at today, trying to, quote, save the game?
I think it's evolved over time. I don't think it's all of a sudden, because all of a sudden with so-called launch angles and things like that.
Right.
Fred made a good point as far as parents pushing the kids. When I would go talk to young kids, and this is even recently, the first thing I would tell them was enjoy the game, enjoy yourself. I see too many kids out there, they look like robots.
Yeah, they're stressed.
They're just not really enjoying themselves. I used to look forward to going to the schoolyard or going to the park and playing in the game. And my parents used to have to come looking for me, to come get me, to take me home, to come have a meal. But they knew where I was. But today, the parents push these kids, and especially at a young age, they push them into these travel teams that play in these tournaments. There's no more local little league, really. Everything is geared towards tournament, and showcase. And I would tell parents all the time, I would sit in the stands with them, let's say at a high school game, and all they would talk about was, my son has to go to a Division I school.
Right.
And I would tell them why. They can go to a Division II and III. I said, make baseball part of your college experience. And if they're better than that, then the scout will find you and they'll move on from there. But don't put pressure on the kid to go to, what good is practicing all week and then sitting on the bench on the weekend? Let's say, in a Division I school. I'd rather go to a school where I'm going to play and I'm going to have fun and enjoy myself. But I think, like Fred said, the parents have taken the fun out of it. I hate to point fingers at them, but it's the truth. And you get a lot of these so-called travel team coaches or high school coaches that don't allow their kids to play on the various teams. Like
Right.
years ago when I went to high school and Fred went, you played baseball, you played football, you played basketball. Today, these sports have become specialized, not only baseball, basketball, or football. And these coaches take these kids for 12 months out of the year and they don't allow them to play other sports. I mean, you used to get a good athlete, let's say, that played baseball and he played football and he might be able to run like hell or whatever, and he'd make a hell of an outfielder. But today, you'll never know because these kids don't get a chance to play baseball. They may be forced to play their other sport for 12 months out of the year. So, I mean, there's a lot of different factors, but I think it's evolved over time. I don't think it's all of a sudden.
Fred?
Really, yeah. And I had the privilege of working with the Kansas City Royals, where they had the academy. Do you remember that, Billy?
Yes, I do. Sid Thrift, I remember, was a big part of that.
Sure, they had two great coaches, Charlie Lau and Chuck Staub, were former major leaguers, and they brought young men in that could run. One could run, one could hit, one could field, one has a great arm. And that's how they took these gentlemen on to teach them the other aspects of the game. And because you have athleticism, they felt that it was the easiest way to get to the big leagues and with proper teaching. And unfortunately, it didn't work. I only think Frank White was the only gentleman that
Yeah.
did, you know, but it was a great concept. But we're missing those fundamentals today, as Billy knows, you know, basic stuff, cutting off, how to bunt, all these little different the integral parts of the game that are so important. And you look at a big league game today, bingo, they don't do it because they don't know how.
Yeah.
Watch batting practice, Billy. What I do, I enjoy batting practice more than anything.
Yeah.
Like you hitting the bat off the ball. I mean, the ball hitting the bat. I mean, I just love that sound, and I could tell if it's going to be in the ballpark or out.
Yeah.
When it's done. But that's a major problem. It really is, and I don't know what to do about it. The other thing is the travel teams. I think it's the biggest ripoff there is. Um,
Why is that?
well, you always say a travel team that is the best ball players. Well, it's not the best ball players. It's the people that pay the money, and it's right here in New York. It's outlandish money that they pay. A lot of these guys have 4 or 5 different teams. They get a coach, and they don't. For me, they don't teach them anything.
Yeah.
Somebody makes a mistake. I coach college for 2 years. I coach in the pros, and one of the things, bring the kid over, enter the dugout, talk to him. You said, hey, shouldn't you cut this off, or get in front of the ball, or all simple, basic things.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't do that. They let them make a mistake, and they don't really teach. So I'm totally against travel ball. The money that these parents spend today, I think, is a disgrace, and they really don't learn anything. And it's all about money, and that's what it comes down to. I don't know how you agree with that, Billy.
No, I do agree with it because
Right.
I've seen it for years. I coached in my college days, and you were a volunteer. You didn't get paid. And years later, I find out some of these coaches are getting paid all
Yeah.
kinds of money for instruction, for this, for that. And the kids, years ago, you didn't have these travel teams. So you played in leagues, let's say here, American Legion in the parade grounds in Brooklyn, or you played and you played a schedule. Today, these teams, every weekend, they're running someplace else. They've killed these leagues, and the kids don't get at bats. They don't get innings pitched. They just don't learn how to play the game. Everything is geared towards, let's say, how hard do you throw on a radar gun?
Right.
These showcases, how fast can you run the 60? It has nothing to do with instincts, learning how to play the game. And it's a shame. And that's what we're seeing in the big leagues today.
Let me pick up on that, Billy, and you can start with the answer, and then Fred, feel free to jump in. A lot of people would say, and you said a few minutes ago, that the excitement of the game, the joy of the game, is gone. That you're not excited watching a game anymore. But people love to see the home run. And these kids are watching guys like Aaron Judge hitting home runs every single night. The Yankees, by the way, it's incredible what they're doing. But they're seeing that, and they're seeing the amount of money that these athletes make. So why then would not they think to themselves, okay, if that's going to get me success, if people are going to cheer and stand when I hit a home run, that's what I want to do. That's all I have to do. So going back to what you said, a lot of people would think that the excitement is still there. How do you respond to that?
Well, the excitement is there for those couple of seconds that the ball's flying out of the ballpark. But for
Well
9
said.
innings, you're sitting there. There
Right.
may be 2 or 3 home runs in a game, and the score may be 3-1 or something like that. You're not going to see games like the Yankees played the Cubs on Sunday, 18-4, or the day
Right.
before, 6 home runs in a game.
Yeah.
That's very rare. And I think there's more excitement in a game when you see a couple of base hits put together and a stolen base and a hit and run, and an outfielder throwing a ball into home plate and try and nail the runner, something like that, than just see a guy run around the bases that takes maybe 10 seconds. You don't really see much of that in the course of a game.
Right. Fred?
I agree with Billy wholeheartedly on that. One thing I love a 2-1 game. Like Gibson and Greg Maddux, okay?
Yep.
An hour, 5 minutes. Now, what you see, like Billy, you see the bunt play, you have the squeeze play, you play small ball, you hit the cutoff man, you proceed a proper throw. Instead of just that 10 seconds of glory where they hit a home run, now you see baseball and the athleticism of all these great athletes that they have today. And they are great athletes. You know, they work out 12 months out of the year and work hard at it. Before, I know when I played in 60, signed in 69, you had to get a job in the off season.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't yet. I was getting $500 a month, and that was it. I got a big raise to $750 the next year at AAA, and it's a different world. And I don't begrudge these players at all. It's the management who gives them the money, but I do expect that if you come out to a ball game, you can do all these little different things. And the other thing, Billy, from Billy's standpoint, he's a scout. They move these guys from A ball up to the big leagues or double A so quick they don't have the experience.
Right.
And that's why we're having these problems of 20 strikeouts a game on both teams. They don't learn how to hit properly behind the runners, and they don't do all the fundamentals.
And let me just go back to one thing that Fred said.
Sure.
2-1 game, an hour and 55 minutes. Those are great games to watch. You see somebody pitch like that. But today you have your 2-1 game, and it takes close to 4 hours because there's so many relief pitches that come in. A starting pitcher goes maybe 4 innings if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And then they start the rotation in from the bullpen. And there's 22 strikeouts in the game. I mean, what fun is there watching a game like that?
I have a real issue. I'm not a pitcher, but I have a real issue with kind of this load management thing. If you're a starting pitcher and you go 6 and you've given up 1 hit, then go 7. If you've still given up 1 hit and you've thrown 90 pitches, go 8. Go for the complete game, because a pitcher wants the perfect game. That's the ultimate for them. But having a complete game in this day and age in baseball is very rare. So I'm with you, Billy, with that. There's so much time added to the game. And what's funny about that, and Fred, you can pick up on this, is that Major League Baseball has been trying to implement new rules in order to speed up the game, but it hasn't done anything, Fred. It's still as slow, maybe slower than it's ever been, right?
I agree. It really is. Getting back to your point there, wow. I just lost my train of thought a second there about the game itself, Billy, you want to help me pick me up here?
I don't know what direction you were going.
It was about the complete game, the pitcher's going yeah.
I got the dog sitting next to me here, so but the complete games. My first year in Double A, you're supposed to go 7, 8, 9 innings. Okay,
Right.
If you only go 5 innings, you're afraid you're going to be sent down to A ball because you can't complete a game. If you're a starting pitcher, you at least have to go 7. They hope for 8, and maybe 1 reliever, and that's it. We are tuned to that and warming up properly. The 100 pitches is a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
It's baloney. Remember, it's a muscle, and what we used to do is if we went 7 innings, 8 innings, 2 days later, we used to pitch on the sideline very lightly, just to loosen your arm up, and that was it. And in 3 days, I was ready to go. I did all my running. So today, they baby these guys so much, and on the back of the newspapers, he makes headlines. He pitches 5 innings and gives up 3 hits. He's a star. He didn't do anything. And that's the problem. He's got to prove himself. You try to get a ball away from Bob Gibson or Greg Maddux, they're not going to give you the ball. But these guys hand it over like, hey, I did my job. And that's the way they feel today.
So essentially, sorry, Billy, essentially what they're saying, you can pick up on this, Billy, is that teams are protecting their assets. They have an investment in these players and they don't want to see them get hurt, right? Because at the end of the day, as much as we love the game, the three of us do, there's many that still love the game of baseball. We love sports in general. Sports is a business.
Absolutely. They feel that they've invested money in these pitchers, let's say, a good deal of money, and they're going to try to get as much out of them as far as longevity, not innings pitched. And just from a scout standpoint, when I go into see a series, usually go see a team for 5-6 games most of the time. And in years past, it would take me sometimes to the 5th game until I'd see the entire staff, meaning the bullpen and the starting pitching. Do you know, today, by I'll say the beginning of the 3rd game, I'm pretty much finished with my pitches because they use everybody.
Right.
It's not the way it was. So you'd have to sit around, just wait for the starter, maybe for that 4th and 5th game. But other than that, you've seen everybody else already.
You know what that brings up, Billy, is injuries. Okay.
Right.
The old expression, can't get it up every day. So these guys pitch in the bullpen and they're in for 9 pitches and they're out.
Well, that's why your relief pitches don't last very long. The life shelf of a relief pitcher is maybe 2 real good years. And then because they're worn out, they're up and down. Even if they don't get in the game, they're usually up in the bullpen. And how many bullets do you have in your arm?
Yeah.
It was one thing when I coached college, I had a very, and him, he's from Brooklyn. He's Frank Verdi. And
sure.
He's left the Yankees, and I needed an assistant coach. I was at St. Leo University, and the coach got promoted to a head job, so I gave him the job. But I got Frank, and we always talk baseball. And the one thing he told me about pitchers is if you get him up, he's in the game. And I'll never forget. He said that's the most important thing from a major league or minor leagues or whatever. That's the most important for a pitcher, and that will save him.
I've never heard that before. And it's so simple, right? You get him up, he's in. He's warming up, you put him in. It should be as simple as that. Just before we wrap, a few more minutes to go. How's the feedback been, Billy, from those you've talked to? You and Fred, of course, on the advisory board for Save the Game. How's the feedback been? And has there been any feedback you can share from Major League Baseball?
Go ahead, Billy.
Go ahead. I haven't heard anything from Kevin, so I really don't know.
Okay. Fred?
Yeah. I haven't either. No, I haven't. I know there was an article in the Daily News the other day about Peter King, who was a congressman and a great baseball fan.
Right.
And wrote a story the other day about it and how his experiences were when he went to Ebbets Field, etc. And it was a terrific story, And I think what me and Billy bring to the table is experiences, one from a scouting aspect and one from a player's. But basically the same, same aspects because, Billy's looking at us to try to sign us. And he brought up another point, the parents today, they always want their kids to go to Division I. I went to Division II. They find you, and
Right.
That's another problem. And you try to give these parents advice, say your son is a good ball player. The most important thing I think is education. You send him to a good school, get an education, and he can play baseball. If you go to Division I, you sit and you're not going to get any better. So I don't understand the reasoning behind it, but they get very upset if you don't say your son goes to Division I. Do you find that, Billy?
Yeah, that's why I said that at the beginning. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's almost at times, gentlemen, that whether it's baseball or any sport, that it seems the kids are playing for the parents, and the parents are kind of living through their kids, which takes away from the love of the game. At the end of the day, that's what sports is about. Just before we wrap, Tom Verducci, I'm sure we all know Tom Verducci, great writer. He's covered baseball forever. He said, and I'll quote this, he said, in the next 5 years, baseball will either be the national pastime or a niche sport. Billy, final thoughts, and then Fred, you can jump in at the end here, just on that comment and where you both go from here and where you want to see this Save the Game going.
Well, I agree with what Tom said, and right now it looks like we're heading in the wrong direction. I hate to say something like that because, again, until we get participation and the younger generation to start watching this game and playing this game, as they get older, they're turning their TV sets off. They're not going to the ballpark where, let's say, they would take their sons, and it's a continuous type of thing. So if we don't make some changes now, I'm afraid that the game is going in the wrong direction, and we're going to see steep declines in attendance, in participation, and everything else that goes along with it.
Fred?
I agree 1,000%. The other thing that's going to happen is TV is going to have enough because the viewership now is down 5-6% each year. Mm-hmm. So after a 3-year contract, it's down 15%. Why are you paying the same numbers? So when each team gets $170,000 each, now they're going to drop to 120 because of less viewership, and now the salaries are going to go down again, and being paid accordingly, and that's a big problem for baseball. And also the other thing is the cost of tickets today and parking. Go to the ball game. You can't bring a family of 4 to a ball game. It's a national debt, and it's a real shame, and that's the problem. Owners should say, hey, listen, I'm a multimillionaire, billionaire, okay? Give Little Leagues a seat, the American Legion some seats, 100 seats up in heaven, but they're at the ballpark with their folks, and they buy a hot dog. That's how you get the fans back into the game, and that's the only way. The other thing is TV times, the World Series. I worked in the city. I had to get up early. I couldn't watch the whole game. I had I had to go to work, go to sleep. They don't understand that. Where's the afternoon games where we had the radio on, or in school we had the radio on, listening to these games in the afternoon? That was exciting. Yeah. The teachers would say, "Hey, put the game on for if the Yankees or anybody's in there." Right, Billy? I mean,
I agree with you.
Great memories.
It was great memories, and you know what? It could be brought back if they really cared. And that's the other issue I have. I think it's poor management, a poor commissioner who knows nothing about the game. I always think, and I told Billy this today, I think you have to do 2 things. Number 1, you have to play the game. Number 2, you have to win and lose. Losing is very important to understand the concept of the game. And I think the game is going downhill faster than we think. It's a shame. And there's nobody else. The union should step in to make these stupid decisions that they're making.
Well, Fred, you have a voice. Billy, you do as well, and so many also who are supporting this. SaveTheGameUS.com. I'm with you. I'm on board with this. And this is the second go-around that I've discussed this, and I've enjoyed it, and I admire the both of you for what you're doing, and hopefully one day baseball will get back to the grassroots because kids need that, and the world needs baseball. Let's face it. Football, basketball, hockey, that's fine, but the world needs baseball. It's been around a very long time. Billy Blitzer, Fred Cambria, thank you very much. I appreciate it and hope to do this again.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.